Welcome to Nasdaq's Intro to an IRO. I'm Jill Malandrino, your host. Joining me at the market site in Times Square, we have Jason McGruder. He's the Investor Relations Officer over at Cantor Fitzgerald. Jason, it's great to have you with us at market site. So tell us more about your team over at Cantor Fitz.
So Cantor Fitzgerald is a diversified financial services company, mainly known as an investment bank. It's the largest controlling shareholder of two publicly traded companies, BGC Partners, which is an interdealer broker, primarily also an energy broker, and it brokers some other products. And then the other public company is Newmark Group, Inc., which operates in the Americas as Newmark Knight Frank. And Newmark is a commercial real estate services provider. And so my team, which has now become 5 people, including myself, oversees investor relations for all 3 companies. Cantor has bonds outstanding, and so we do a little bit of investor relations for the private company Cantor, and then we have bonds and obviously shares outstanding for the 2 publicly traded companies, and so we do investor relations for all 3 companies.
All right, now what are some of your top priorities and biggest challenges?
Well, some of the top priorities, especially for BGC, is trying to get more sell-side coverage. BGC is currently only covered by 2 sell-side firms, which is fewer than our financial services peers like MarketAxess or the exchanges or TradeWeb, and then also just generally to get a better valuation for both names, and that's sort of tough with the sell side shrinking. It's more difficult to get the attention of the sell side analysts who might cover you, and so that's been sort of our big day-to-day challenge lately.
All right, now, what's one of the important initiatives that you've championed or an experience that you can share as an investor relations professional?
Right, so a few years ago, the SEC made it explicitly allowable for you to release financial information via the internet, and so we were one of the first companies actually to do website-only press releases. That's BGC, and now BGC and Newmark both do that. And so actually Nasdaq helped us, their legal counsel and listing team worked with us and the SEC's lawyers and our own in-house counsel and external counsel to make sure that it was perfectly allowable. So I want to say we were one of the first 5 companies to do that, and I've sort of over the years championed that to other companies. Not that we don't do traditional wire service releases, but it's easier and gives you more flexibility when you do a press release on your website. Now a lot of companies do them through Twitter or other social media channels as well.
What skills do you think makes an IR officer successful?
The ideal IR person in my mind is someone with a journalism or an English major who has a CPA and a CFA. Now such a person is probably virtually fictional, but I do think you need to have writing and speaking ability, but also have a firm grasp of financials and numbers. But also you need to be able to think outside the box, because there's no exact situation that happens more than once, and so you need to be able to be flexible and think on your feet.
So what resources do you rely on to be successful?
Well, I pay attention to Investor Relations Magazine, the events that Nasdaq itself puts on for investor relations people. The National Investor Relations Institute, or NIRI, has a lot of events that where you can learn from your peers and learn from different finance folks what's going on. I follow my Bloomberg terminal fairly regularly, read the Wall Street Journal. We subscribe to a lot of newsletters that are focused on the financial markets. We in fact put together an internal newsletter that goes out every day, and just in putting that together, I see a lot of the news information that's going on with the markets, with our peers, with our industry, with regulation, and you just really have to stay on top of it, because a lot of what the IR people do is not just informing our investors about the company, but informing our management team about what's going on with the industry and the markets.
Speaking of investors, how do IROs best engage with the investment community?
Well, it's tough to some extent when you're a small mid-cap company like the 2 companies that we work for, but I think you have to be proactive. You have to not only go to the investment banking sponsored non-deal roadshows and conferences, but you have to try to reach out proactively to the type of investors that you want to seek. Usually those are the low turnover, long-term investors. That's every IRO's dream investor. And so a lot of times we have to reach out proactively to those kind of people, and then reach out to your own top investors from time to time if you haven't heard from them, just to make sure that they're not only talking to you when they're worried about something, but that they're, and 9 out of 10 times the big long-only shareholders that do own us tell me they're fine and don't need to hear from me. But it's nice to not just call when there's a panic.
Right. All right. And to wrap up here, what's your advice for the next generation of IR leaders?
Stay on top of
Everything.
of everything because more and more things in the world are being automated in general. And IR is one of the professions I think will be the last to be taken over by the computers because you need so many different skill sets and because there's so many hats you have to wear. And so I just think if you stay on top of things in terms of what's going on with the markets, in terms of your finance and accounting knowledge, and if you're in a specific industry, what's going on in that industry, you'll be fine.
All right, Jason, thank you so much for joining us at MarketSite.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Intro to an IRO. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.